Welcome again to AT Math.
Cumulative frequency graph. A cumulative frequency graph creates a running total of the amounts within the table.
Suppose this example taken from students in a class. Notice at the right side that you are adding the previous frequency. We can create a cumulative frequency graph to represent this data. Let's see how this graph can be used.
How many students have 45 centimeters of length or less? We enter from 45 centimeters up to the curve, and then we go left to the frequency to see the result. We can say now that 25 students have 45 centimeters of length or less. How many students have 55 centimeters of length or less? We have to do the same. We enter from 55 centimeters up to the curve, and then we go left to the frequency to see the result. We can say now that 40 students, all of them, have 55 centimeters of length or less.
And if we ask now, half of the students from the class are smaller than, we should calculate how many students are in half of the class. That means 40 divided by 2, that is equal to 20. This time we need to enter from the frequency line and not from the length line. From 20 students to the right until we reach the curve, and then we go down. We may see that the result is 43 centimeters. Did you know that saying half of the class is equal to saying 50% of the class? That symbol that you see over there means percent.
And if we ask now, 1/4 of the class are smaller than what? We should calculate how many students are in 1/4 of the class. That means 40 over 4 equals 10. We enter from the frequency line and not from the length line. From 10 students to the right until we reach the curve, and then go down. We may see that the result is 36 centimeters. Did you know that saying 1/4 of the class is equal to say 25% of the class?
Now the question is, 3/4 of the class is smaller than? So, the first thing we need to do is to calculate how many students are in 3/4 of the class. That means 40 divided by 4 and then times 3. That will give us 30. We enter from the frequency line and not from the length line because we are talking about students, the frequency. From 30 students to the right until we reach the curve and then go down, we may see that the result is approximately 47 centimeters. And did you know that saying 3/4 of the class is equal to saying 75% of the class?
How do we create this graph? Suppose that we have this information already grouped. At the right side, we have a frequency column that tells us how many students are in each group.
We can now create an extra column indicating the cumulative frequency from each group. This cumulative frequency column tells us the frequency in each group adding the frequency from the previous ones. Notice, for example, in the third one, we have 25 as the value. That is because we put the 11 from that group added to 10 and 4 from the previous ones. Now that we have the table prepared, it's time to plot our information. We will need to plot each group with a mark. For the first group, we will look at the biggest length from it. and from the cumulative frequency column. Then, go to the graph and make the mark.
We do exactly the same for the rest of the groups. Finally, we make that red line joining each mark we made. And we have our cumulative frequency graph.
So here you have a summary of the steps. First step, create the table with the group data. For the second step, add a column that indicates the cumulative frequency from each group. Third step, mark every plot at the graph. And final and fourth step, join each mark with a curve.
Here you have a final challenge for an extra point. How many students are bigger than 42 centimeters?
Round 1. Fight!